Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something really fascinating: Boston's surprising role in solar energy, specifically how they're dealing with, well, rain.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. We've looked at some forward-thinking research, black knight power included, and it reveals some incredible things about energy resilience.
It really does,
Yeah,
because you think solar, you think sunshine.
exactly. Deserts, California maybe, not usually Boston with its, classic New England weather,
Yeah.
but they're really pushing the boundaries.
Okay, so let's dive into that. Boston's solar scene, here's the kicker. They average only about 200 sunny days a year. That's less than the U.S. average.
Right.
Yet Boston ranks really high in solar capacity per person, 55.51 watts. So how is that
Yeah.
possible, especially like you said with all the rain?
Well, a couple of big drivers. First, electricity isn't cheap. They're about 14.91 cents per kilowatt hour. That makes solar more attractive financially.
Okay, economics makes sense.
And second, Massachusetts has some really strong state incentives, things like net metering. That's where you get full credit for extra power you send back to the grid.
Right, one-to-one credit is huge.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the SMART program, too, which gives long-term payments.
Mm.
But the big hurdle, as you mentioned, is rain. Standard solar panels, the PV ones, their efficiency can just plummet.
What are we talking?
It can drop by up to 85% when it's raining. 85%.
Wow. Okay, so that clearly demands a different approach. Hybrid solutions, energy storage.
Exactly. You can't rely solely on sunshine there. Which brings us to the really cool part. Getting power from the rain itself.
Okay, this is where it sounds a bit like science fiction. How on earth do you get electricity from raindrops?
It's called TN technology, triboelectric nanogenerators.
Right, TNs.
They basically convert the mechanical energy, the thump of the raindrop hitting the panel, into electricity. It uses something called the triboelectric effect.
Like static electricity when you rub a balloon on your hair?
Sort of, yeah. Very simplified analogy, but same basic principle. Raindrops hit a special textured layer on the panel, create friction, generate static charges.
Okay.
And then those tiny charges are collected and channeled into usable current. So these hybrid panels have both the regular PV cells for sun and this tang layer for rain. Dual capture.
That is clever. Ingenious, really. But what about performance? Is it a lot of power?
Well, let's manage expectations here. A tang layer, maybe 1 square meter, might generate about 5 to 10 watts in moderate rain.
Okay, compared to a standard panel in sunshine.
A standard panel might hit 250 watts in full sun. So tangs aren't replacing PV output.
Right.
But the key insight is this. They generate power when the PV panels aren't working well, or at all. During rain, even in darkness. It extends the time you're actually harvesting energy.
So it makes the system more resilient, especially in a place like Boston.
Precisely. And they're built to be pretty durable, too. There was a prototype back in 2018 from Soochow University.
Ah, yes, I remember reading about that.
It combined tangs and PV, and it actually produced some water, too, while keeping most of its solar efficiency. That kind of early work really helped inform research happening now, like projects at MIT.
Okay, so the science is developing. Let's bring it back to the practical side for you listening. How does this translate for a homeowner in Boston today? The incentives must be key.
Absolutely crucial. We mentioned the 1.1 net metering for smaller systems. That's a big one. You get full retail value for your excess solar power.
And the federal tax credit, right? That's still significant.
Very. 30% off the installation cost. That applies nationwide, but it makes a huge difference.
And locally, any specific Massachusetts programs?
Yes, the Mass Save loans. They offer 0% interest financing up to $25,000, specifically targeted for adding solar plus battery storage.
Ah, storage. Let's talk about that. Batteries like the Tesla Powerwall, they add cost, don't they?
They do. You might be looking at adding around, say, $17,000 for a battery system. It's a chunk of change.
But worth it.
It often really boosts the return on investment. You store that solar energy you generate during the day to use at night, obviously. But also, and this is important, it lets you join programs like Connected Solutions.
Connected solutions.
Yeah, it's a demand and response program. Basically, you let the utility draw a bit of power from your battery during peak demand times, a few times a year maybe, and you paid for that.
How much?
It can be up to $1,500 a year just for letting them use your stored energy occasionally. It helps the grid, and it helps your wallet.
That sounds like a win-win. And we're seeing real results, right? People saving serious money.
Definitely. There are examples like a 13.8 kilowatt system saving its owners $4,000 a year, covering 90% of their electricity.
90%.
And another household in Jamaica Plain, thanks to net metering, apparently wiped out their summer electricity bills entirely.
Okay, that's compelling. But
Right.
we should be realistic too. What are the limitations right now, especially with the rain power tech?
Good point. The Teng tech, while promising, is still early stage for widespread use. Current prototypes generate maybe less than 1% of what a typical home needs.
So a tiny fraction.
A tiny fraction from the rain part, yes. There are also challenges integrating them. You need specific roof setups, and adding the Teng layer can actually reduce the PV panel's own efficiency slightly, maybe 5–10%.
A trade-off then.
Exactly. And the overall upfront cost, even with incentives, is still substantial. Around $26,000 on average after the credits. It's an investment.
Okay, so challenges remain. But what's on the horizon? What does the future look like?
The future looks dynamic. There's fascinating research coming out of places like MIT. They're looking at things like radiative cooling.
Radiative cooling.
Yeah, panels that could potentially generate a small amount of power at night just by radiating heat out into space. 24/7 power generation, potentially.
Wow, okay.
And concepts like desalination synergy, using waste heat from solar panels to help purify water. Really integrated thinking.
And any specific companies pushing the Tang idea forward?
There's a Boston-based company, YVJ Spheres. They're exploring using tiny light-focusing spheres, claiming potential efficiency gains of, well, up to 200 times. It's very early days, still research, but definitely one to keep an eye on.
So the takeaway seems to be that Boston's cloudy, rainy weather isn't stopping solar progress. It's actually driving innovation.
It really is. These hybrid systems, maybe combining PV, TN someday, plus batteries and smart incentives, they offer a real path toward energy independence, even in less sunny climates.
It fundamentally changes how we think about solar potential, which leads to a final thought. If we're figuring out how to get energy from sunlight and raindrops, what other everyday things around us hold energy we just haven't tapped into yet?
That's the exciting question, isn't it? What's next? For now, though, if you're in an area like Boston, it's certainly worth looking into the current solar options, talking to certified installers, and seeing how those incentives could work for you. The potential is definitely growing.